Are they American? That's the question people keep asking when they see them tearing through fields, snapping fences, and vanishing into darkness like shadows. Millions of invasive wild boars now roam across the United States. And no, they are not native. But the real shock is where they came from. The real shock is how fast they've taken over, and how quietly farmers are fighting back. In the heart of rural America, nights are no longer silent. The ground trembles. Crops disappear before sunrise. Fences that stood for decades collapse in hours. Farmers wake up to fields that look like they've been hit by a bomb. Deep craters, broken irrigation lines, mud, chaos, and destruction everywhere. And yet, no one hears gunfire. No helicopters. No dramatic confrontations. Silence. That silence is intentional. Wild boars are not just pests. They are one of the most intelligent, adaptable, and destructive invasive species on American soil. A single sounder can destroy an entire harvest overnight. One female can give birth twice a year, producing up to a dozen piglets each time. Multiply that across thousands of farms, and you begin to understand why experts call this a biological invasion, not a wildlife problem. But here's where the story takes a turn. Despite the scale of destruction, experienced farmers have learned something crucial. Fighting wild boars head-on makes the problem worse. These animals learn. They remember. One bad encounter teaches an entire group how to avoid danger forever. Every loud shot, every rush chase, every failed attempt only sharpens their instincts. And that's why the most effective battle against them doesn't look like a battle at all. Across America, especially in states like Texas, farmers are quietly shifting strategies. They are no longer reacting in anger. They are planning with precision, using patience instead of force, intelligence instead of noise. What they built looks simple at first glance, almost harmless. But behind it lies behavioral science, modern technology, and a deep understanding of how wild boars think. While the rest of the country sleeps, these farmers are watching live feeds from night vision cameras. They're counting bodies, studying movement patterns, waiting, not days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, because one mistake can educate an entire population of boars and undo years of effort. This is not hunting for sport. This is population control under pressure, a silent war being fought to protect food supply, land stability, and rural livelihoods. And the method they're using has already removed tens of thousands of wild boars without firing a single shot. So who are these animals really? How did they spread so fast across America? And what exactly are farmers doing differently that finally gives them the upper hand? The answers may surprise you, because in this fight, silence is the deadliest weapon of all. To understand how American farmers are dealing with millions of invasive wild boars, you first have to understand how these animals think. Wild boars don't move randomly. They plan. They remember routes, smells, sounds, and even timing. What looks like chaos in a destroyed field is actually the result of calculated movement carried out under the cover of darkness. That's why traditional methods failed. For years, farmers relied on rifles, spotlights, and rush night patrols. At first, it seemed effective. A few animals were removed. But within weeks, the damage returned worse than before. The boars had learned. They shifted feeding hours deeper into the night. They avoided open spaces. They split into smaller groups, making them harder to track. In some cases, they moved closer to towns. increasing the risk to people and livestock. This is when a small group of farmers, working with wildlife specialists, began asking a different question. What if we stop trying to scare them and instead let them feel safe? That idea went against every instinct, but it worked. The strategy begins with location. Not near houses, not near barns. A spot close to tree lines, creek beds, or brush. Places wild boars already trust. The structure itself is simple but powerful. A heavy-duty steel enclosure, wide enough to hold dozens of animals at once. No weak fencing, no gaps. Everything is designed to withstand force. But here's the critical part. The gate stays open. For days, sometimes weeks, farmers place bait inside and around the enclosure. Corn, grain, fermented feed. Nothing happens at first. The boars circle. They sniff. They test boundaries. They eat outside the structure, but refuse to enter. Cameras capture everything. Farmers don't interfere. They wait. Eventually, one boar enters. Then another. They eat quickly and leave. No trap, no threat, no danger. That moment changes everything. Over time, the enclosure becomes routine. A feeding stop, a safe place. Entire sounders begin entering together. Adults, juveniles, even the dominant animals that usually stay back. This is where patience becomes power. Many people fail here. They see 5 or 6 animals inside and close the gate too early. That mistake cost them years. The remaining boars notice the missing members and never return. Worse, they teach future generations to avoid similar structures. Experienced farmers don't rush. They count, they observe, they wait until every single member of the sounder is inside at once. No guards outside, no hesitation, just calm feeding behavior. Then, and only then, the gate drops. It happens in seconds. No gunfire, no noise that carries across the land. The boars panic, but it's too late. The enclosure holds. The surrounding wildlife remains undisturbed. Nearby sounders hear nothing, learn nothing. By morning, the land is quiet again. Authorized teams arrive to handle the animals according to state regulations. Everything is documented. Everything is legal. The meat is processed or donated where permitted. The land is restored. And most importantly, the surrounding boar population remains unaware of what just happened. This method doesn't remove a few animals. It removes entire generations at once. That's why farmers using this system can eliminate dozens of wild boars in a single operation and repeat the process weeks later with a completely different group. No fear spreads. No behavioral resistance develops. And across America, especially in high-impact states, this silent strategy is changing the balance. But the story doesn't end here, because controlling wild boars isn't just about traps. It's about coordination, data sharing, and understanding that this invasion doesn't stop at property lines. What most people don't realize is that wild boar control in America stopped being a farm problem a long time ago. Today, it's a nationwide challenge that crosses county lines, state borders, and even federal jurisdictions. A single sounder trapped on one property means nothing if 3 more are moving through neighboring land the same night. Farmers learned this lesson the hard way. That's when the strategy evolved. Across states like Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, and Georgia, farmers began coordinating. Not casually, strategically. Trail camera data was shared. Movement patterns were logged. Feeding times, wind direction, seasonal shifts, and terrain preferences were mapped. What emerged was something closer to intelligence work than traditional farming. Wild boars were no longer being hunted. They were being managed. Farmers realized that boars don't respect fences or ownership. A sounder feeding on one ranch tonight will destroy a soybean field miles away tomorrow. So instead of isolated action, they synchronized operations. When one trap was activated, nearby farms stayed quiet. No gunshots, no pressure. This prevented survivors from scattering and spreading learned avoidance behaviors. Timing became everything. Operations were planned around moon phases, weather fronts, and crop cycles. During dry months, boars followed water. During harvest seasons, they targeted high-energy crops. By predicting these movements, farmers positioned traps not where damage had already occurred, but where it was about to happen. Technology amplified the advantage. Thermal cameras detected nighttime movement. GPS-tagged boars, captured during earlier operations, revealed travel corridors spanning dozens of miles. In some regions, drones quietly scanned fields at dawn to confirm whether sounders had returned. This wasn't chaos anymore. It was controlled pressure applied with precision, and the results were impossible to ignore. Fields that once lost 30 to 40% of yields began stabilizing. Soil damage decreased. Native wildlife slowly returned to areas previously overrun. Livestock injuries dropped. Even vehicle collisions on rural roads declined as boar numbers were reduced near traffic corridors. But here's the most important truth. The war isn't over. Wild boars reproduce faster than almost any large invasive mammal in North America. One mistake, one rush decision, one loud operation can undo months of progress. That's why discipline matters more than firepower. Silence matters more than speed. American farmers didn't win by being aggressive. They won by being patient. By understanding that fear makes wild boars smarter and comfort makes them vulnerable. This is why these methods aren't always talked about publicly. Because once boars learn to associate structures with danger, the advantage disappears. The success of the system depends on consistency, coordination, and restraint. Three things that don't come easily when livelihoods are at stake. Yet across America, farmers are proving it's possible, not with chaos, not with noise, but with planning, trust, and precision. And as invasive wild boars continue spreading into new regions, one question remains unanswered. Will more communities adopt these methods in time? Or will they wait until the damage is irreversible? Because in this battle, hesitation doesn't just cost crops. It costs ecosystems safety and control itself. And now that you know how American farmers are really dealing with millions of invasive wild boars, the silence in the fields suddenly makes a lot more sense.